Let's move on, Ryan, to Marion at Clear Creek Amana in the 3A playoffs Friday evening in Tiffin. Go through Marion here, and are they still the Indians, or does that nickname drop right away here, or what? I know the school board voted 5-2 to change the nickname, which I think if it's offensive to people, that's probably a good idea, but we're not going down that road. But are you still using that nickname in your copy? And
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, good story in the Gazette, Cedar Rapids Gazette about that.
Yes, I did read that.
But I believe it's after the 2021 school year.
Okay.
So, I mean, they have it on all their, or I should say they have it on all their jerseys. Presumably they have it on jerseys, they have it on scoreboard, etc. So, it's all around. I mean, that's been their nickname for, since, I'm assuming since the school started. So,
right.
But so, yeah, that will be, in our preview and all, in this game coverage, that's what they will be. But I'm the way I understood it, it's after this, it would be like this summer when they have a chance to kind of, reorder jerseys and redo everything and stuff. But good story in the Gazette about that.
Yep, I would agree. So let's go through Marion's season first here. Of note, and I know you know this and probably a lot of the listeners do, but Marion had lost 11 in a row coming into this season, 0-9 last year. Got their first win right out of the gate on September the 5th against Center Point Urbana, Storm and Pointers, 29-20. Lost the following week, no shame here, 42-0 against a strong Assumption team. Beat Clinton
top 5 team.
0. So they were 2-1 to start off before dropping their last 3. They lost 17-0 against Wahlert, 38-7 against North Scott, and then a tough 27-24 setback against Central DeWitt. So 2-4 coming into this one, and we probably get accused of being hyperbolic here, Ryan, but I think this team's a pretty good 2-4 team.
They're much better, and really that 2-4 probably doesn't even, like you said, it probably doesn't show how much improvement they've made. I mean, that's obviously you're 0-9 a year ago. That's not good,
no.
Obviously. And I think Clear Creek beat them I think it was 47-7 last year when they played. But, Rob, when you look at that schedule, you're talking about North Scott and Assumption are top 10 teams. Assumption's undefeated. They're a top 5 team in 3A right now. North Scott's always really good. They had some COVID issues, but I think they've lost once and are top 10 right now. And then they were very much in that Wahlert game that ended up 17-0. They're in that. I mean, obviously 17-0, you're not out of it, but they were in that game the whole time. And then Center Point Urbana is not a bad team at all that they beat in their opener. I think Center Point finished 3-4. Solon was beating them by a point, I think maybe 7-6 at halftime or something like that. So, and kind of put it on them in the second half, but Center Point is not a bad team. It's not like they beat 2 0-7 teams. I mean, they beat a quality team. And I like to just, you like to mention things that you think are good stories, even outside of our area. I don't know all the specifics of this, but that area, their field and everything was really affected by the storm in August. Right. I know that disrupted their practice schedule with the derecho. And you think about that. I mean, these are high school kids that had many of them probably had their life disrupted in some kind of way, even if it was just, cleaning up for a week or whatever. But
yeah, that's a great point.
And they come out 2-1. I know it disrupted their practice schedule, and I know it disrupted their game schedule. They've played of their they played 6 or 7.
They're 2-4.
They're 2-4. They played 6. So they've played 3 Saturdays, a Thursday, and only 2 Fridays. And in fact, again, I don't know that they're going to beat that Assumption game or beat Assumption anyway on any sort of a schedule. Assumption's very good. But they played that Saturday, beat CPU, and then came back and played a Thursday after that.
Yeah.
Against Assumption. So that's something they've had to deal with because of their field issues, the way I understand it. But a lot of Saturdays, I think they played a game at Linmar. So that's just some adversity a little bit too. Not huge things, but they're much improved. And I think and then I forgot to mention, then they lose by a field goal to DeWitt
Yeah.
So this is a game, again, a lot like the game we just talked about. Motivated Clear Creek, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be. Like, no reason. I don't read too much into that, but good, locked in Clear Creek. This is a game they should win. It's a team they beat by 40 last year, a team that's much improved, but this is a game Clear Creek should control. But at the same time, this Marion team's probably a little bit better than what you think and what you see on paper. And like we talked about with Atumwa, I know that they're going to be motivated to come play this game, talking about Marion. So I think it's a week that Clear Creek's got to focus on themselves, and they'll be okay. But like we just talked about, this is a team that's going to come up here ready to play.
I think an interesting aspect of this matchup, Brian, and we talked about it Monday in the Seven Nation podcast, and you mentioned this as a key for Clear Creek, Amana, moving forward, is the ability to stop the opponent's running game. And struggled last week against Grinnell, a really good back. So, again, you don't want to go overboard in that. But the challenge this week for Clear Creek is being able to stop the rush. And at least from a statistical standpoint, that's Marion's bread and butter. I mean, Marion has rushed for 1,086 yards in 6 games, 5.6 a pop. You've got, the leading rusher, Lucas Unson, is a senior. He averages 6.2, 528 yards in 6 games, 6.2. The quarterback, Alex Moda, 63 carries for 436, 6.9 a carry, 7 touchdowns. Unson has 3. You look at Moda in the passing game, he's 18 for 53 for 213 yards, 1 touchdown and 4 picks. There's the Clippers knew last week, Ryan, that they were going to have to stop the run. That was, the challenge. It's got the same challenge this week.
Yep. And I think that's for them. I think that's a great timing to have. And most high school teams want to run the ball, obviously, but I think that's good timing. Like you said, you spend a week, you look at what they did last week, what they did against you, and you say, okay, this is your top challenge again this week. But a few numbers, Rob, when Clear Creek's really had success this year, they've done a good job against the run. And some of this is obviously competition. Don't get me wrong, but against Muscatine, they gave up 235 on the ground in a win against Muscatine. Now, Muscatine is a 4A team. They have some good skill guys, but you look at their wins. Benton, they gave up 119 on the ground. Oskaloosa, 101 on the ground, and then Newton, 273. That was a really lopsided game. I don't know how much of that came after halftime. In a game that they pretty much put away. But the 3 games they've lost, they gave up 244 to Mount Pleasant, 336 to Xavier, and 401 to Grinnell. Now, Grinnell has Grinnell has arguably the best back in 3A, the most productive for sure. Mm-hmm. And Xavier is Xavier, and what they've built themselves on for years is being physical and running the football. So there isn't a bunch of shame in that.
I could at least get positive yardage behind Xavier's offensive line. I'm not breaking into in the open field, but I'm going to get a couple yards.
2 or 3 and then just dive. Yep. That's a 4-yard gain.
Cloud of dust and sweat and just pain.
But you're right. That's the key, because one of the things I wrote down before you even said that is get a lead and then you force them to throw. If you can make them play from behind in a game where, you got take your wins in the postseason, you take your wins, whether they're 3-2 or 2-0, And so if you can get them in a hole and force them to throw it, when you look at their statistics offensively, and not only that, defensively, and you can make teams have had some success running it. So if you're having success running it against the Clear Creek defense, why throw it? But part of that, I think, is they have some really good athletes in the back end of their defense that are the same athlete, some of which are the same athletes that are really key in their passing game. But Clear Creek has 12 interceptions this year.
Wow.
Given up and allowed 3 passing touchdowns, and they're allowing 68 passing yards a game. So that's one of those things throughout the playoffs. If they can play with a lead a little bit and force teams to throw it, and let their secondary make plays, they have some really good athletes back there. Ben Swales is a really good safety. They have some good corners. I really like the way their secondary plays. And so if you can, especially in this game, you make Marion, you get a couple touchdown lead, you force them to throw it at least some, or if they want to run it, that's just shortening the game and you get out of there with a win. But make them throw it and take advantage of the athletic advantage that I think they have in that back 4 or 5 on defense.
I think Marion's got, by looks of it here, Marion's got 7 takeaways, 4 fumble recoveries, 3 interceptions. So in 6 games, they're a little over a turnover a game. It's producing. So
yeah, nothing
really standing out there.
Clear Creek's been pretty good at taking care of the ball too, which this time of year, as we talked about, amongst other things, the weather changes a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of those things where the turnovers aren't fluky. I don't think it's, when the weather gets, not even rain or snow or anything like that, but it gets cold and some of those things, a lot of it's just taking care of the ball, covering it up and taking care of the ball. And that's something they've been, really most of our area teams have been pretty good about, but I think they've been pretty good about that too. And having a senior quarterback helps as well. Just making smart decisions, knowing when to try to make a play, when to try to, stretch out for extra yardage and not do that stuff too. So.
All right. So keys to the game there then, Ryan, is it's basically make Marion one-dimensional and then being able to hold up against that one dimension's, hopefully you force Marion to throw the ball a little bit where it's not comfortable.
Right. Get them out of their comfort zone.
Right.
And that's something they weren't really able to do against Grinnell. A little bit, they had some success putting them in, and you got to win on first down, especially in high school football. Make those second and longs, those third and longs. But I didn't think they were, as I went back over my stats and looked at kind of some of that stuff, I thought the key to that game was Grinnell was able to stay in that situation where the run was always kind of on the table for them. If you can push it to 2 scores late as the time winds down, maybe it's a little bit harder to call run plays all the way. But that's something I think is big for them this week is, making Marion one-dimensional, getting a little bit of a lead and making them try to beat you with the pass because Clear Creek's been so good at defending it. And then offensively, running the ball. I mean, Clear Creek's been really good the last month running the football. I was just going over their numbers defensively. It's almost as impressive offensively, Rob. They went from averaging about 150 a game on the ground through 4 games, and their last 3 they've run for 300, 312, and 279. And obviously, again, part of that's probably competition a little bit with Oskaloosa and Newton in there. But, they had 279 rushing yards last week against a team that's, finishes 5-2. They ran the ball really well last week. And we have 4 – I had this in my prep rewind, which I encourage people to find on yourprepsports.com, kind of look back at last week. But we have 4 areas –
that was kind of a shameless plug right there, and I encourage
it was.
This podcast.
Look, I'm not too proud to plug my work on the site, Rob.
We probably should do that more. If you're listening to this podcast, please visit yourprepsports.com for all your local needs.
We have 4 running backs that realistically can get 1,000 yards this week, and if they play if all those guys play a couple more games. They could easily get it. But Alex Figueroa is one of those guys. He's at 884 in 7 games. That's really impressive. He's been really good this year. And he's a really fun player to watch. Good kid to talk to, too. But he's really I talked to Gabe Baker about him before the season because he kind of got thrown out there as a sophomore. They had some injuries and had a good sophomore year and split more time. Last year, they kind of used 3 guys in that tailback role. But they wanted him to get a little bit bigger, before they just kind of fed him. And he had, I think close to 30 carries last week. I can't remember, but he's really become
he's not the biggest guy in the world either to be alive.
He's not. He's explosive. He's quick, but he's really, he's well conditioned, I think, right now. He knows what it takes to do that after those 2 years. And they've rolled with him this year.